Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, The Dragon Reborn. So as always, we're going to talk non-spoilery thoughts and opinions up front, and then jump over to the spoiler section where we can talk in more detail. So with that being said, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you're interested in my reactions to these episodes, that will be available down on Patreon. The link is down in the description. So with that being said, let's begin. Oh my god, this episode is just like, oh my god, holy crap, this episode. Oh my god, oh my god. I'm sorry, I swear I can say something else besides oh my god. Because it's just like, holy crap. Alright, so let's talk non spoilers to start out. So, the episode continues where we basically left off. We get a little bit more information about the different groups that our people are with, right? So we have Matt and Rand who are with Tom the Gleeman. So we have a little bit more exposition as they start to travel, and this stuff starts to happen there. So we get a little bit of development about some stuff that happened in the previous episode, as well as just some more character development stuff. We get to learn who Tom is a bit more. We get to see a bit more of his intention and stuff, and we get a lot more of their character interaction and stuff. So we see the chemistry between these characters is still very, very on point, and not just with Matt and Tom, but also with Rand and Tom. So the actors that they have playing them is really, really well done. And in previous episodes, like Tom doing the pickpocketing thing, that's a little out of character from the book and stuff. So he's a little bit more of a rogue and whatnot. But I think in this episode, his personality was a lot more direct book inspired. He was much more of a protector and stuff and a fighter, and very much learning, trying to teach these guys stuff and everything. So I really like that kind of impression that I got. And but their part of the story honestly was kind of a minor part of the story. We got a little bit of the continuation of their story arc. How their story arc was the largest one in the previous episode, theirs was probably the smallest one in this episode. And similar with Nynaeve and Perrin, they're with the Tinkers. They're continuing with the traveling folks, like they were in the last episode. And same thing, we get more world building, we get more exposition, we get to understand more about the Way of the Leaf and everything about their culture and stuff. And we get to meet some more of the characters, and we know more about who they are. So a lot of the world building is really happening in this episode, and I think it's done really well. Because a lot of the big shining points about the Wheel of Time is the way the world building is done. The just expansive, in-depth cultures that Jordan created, they're so well done and they're so fascinating. And I'm happy to see that we're getting a lot of that here. We got a mild little bit of the Aiel last episode, and this one we get a lot of information about the Tinkers. We get a lot of information about, well, not a lot, but we get some more information about what a Gleeman is and stuff. So it just continues to build on the world and everything, and it just makes it more expansive. And I can't believe how lived in it feels and how completely thorough it already feels as compared to some other shows. I don't want to compare it to Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones did that same thing pretty well. I mean, granted, their budget and all that stuff, that's neither here nor there, but it's coming across really, really well, and I'm really enjoying it. But I'm still waiting for other characters from the books to show up and stuff. So there's this one character, Elias, who I'm just waiting to show up. I don't think he even shows up until later, because we're still honestly in the early parts of the first book. So it makes sense, but I'm impatient a little bit, so I'm just waiting for him to show up. But the big meat of the episode is in the Moraine Nynaeve land plotline. So last episode they met up with the different group of the different sisters. So it was basically a big war camp of different sisters of the White Tower, different Ajas and everything, and their warders and whatnot. So in this section, we get to learn a lot more about the nature of warders and their bonds with their Aes Sedai, and them as a people themselves, them as a group themselves. They're like a warrior fraternity in a lot of ways, and it comes across really well how Lan is not just a monolithic representation of all the different types of warders and stuff. We get to see how varied their personalities are, how varied the relationships are with their Aes Sedai, because Lan and Moraine don't sleep together or anything like that. Their relationship is closer than husband and wife, but their relationship is non-sexual. But that's not necessarily the case for all Aes Sedai. So some of them are basically dating their warders and stuff. So we get to see some of that. I thought that was really cool. So we just get a lot of build up and stuff, and then we get a lot of information about Logain. We get a lot of, pretty much a lot of that stuff that we saw in the trailers. We get a lot of that this episode. So it plays out really nicely, and it like sets up all this promise of everything. And it kind of sets up these motivations that some of the characters have a lot better than just like some of the little expositional points that we got that they were talking about before. So I want to talk in more detail about some of the really cool stuff that happens in the episode. So I want to go ahead and jump over to spoilers. So spoiler warning for both the books and the episode for Wheel of Time episode 4, The Dragon Reborn. So I just basically want to start off talking about the last bit of the episode. Holy crap, that was so crazy. All of that stuff that happened was just epic. It was so cool. So, actually, no, let me just kind of cover the other bits of the episode first, and then we can just devote the rest of the video to talking about the last bit, the biggest part of the story, the biggest plot line. So, even within Matt and Rand's plot line, we pretty much just get a continuation, and we start to really see the influence the dagger is having on them. Like, they, Tom, Matt, and Rand end up going to this, they see this, this like farm or whatever, and where this family owns this farm, and they basically want to sleep in the barn. So after a little confrontation, when they meet the family and stuff, the family allows them to sleep in the barn for the night in exchange for work. So they go ahead and do that. And during this time, like, you know, after some time passes, Tom starts to explain like the nature of the one power and its influence on men to Rand and stuff. And he gives him an example of his nephew who found out he could channel, and he was like going crazy and stuff, even though he had already told him all the stories and everything, gave him all the warnings and all this stuff, and he still ended up going crazy. And then the Reds came and ended up gentling him, and then like only a few weeks later he ends up killing himself, because when you get gentled or severed from the power, like it basically takes all your life force out of you and you can't live, or makes it near impossible to live, and a lot of people would just wither away or end up committing suicide, such as the case with Tom's nephew. So this is all basically a lead up for him to tell him that he thinks Matt is going insane because he has the ability to channel. He doesn't connect it to the dagger, but we know, obviously, as the audience know, and book readers, like, no, it is the dagger's influence. And like that scene where he ends up puking and stuff, and like the dark stuff go back in him, I was like, it was so gross, it was so freaky and everything. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Like, it was just so much more visceral and stuff. And then the part that really like dropped my jaw, I was just like completely like mind blown. Like when they Rand goes to sleep or whatever and has that dream, that clearly power, like shadow influenced dream, where you like see it seemed a little prophetic in a lot of ways, right? Like we had Matt walking with bloody hands, and we had Perrin like with a hammer, like doing something, and like just all the images and stuff that we were getting felt very like vaguely prophetic. But then we have the Shaitan, or the Baalzamon, like grabbing Egwene by the face. Like that whole look of Baalzamon is just so not terrifying. Like he looks like a lizard man with fire eyes. I get it's basically just like an avatar or whatever, but like they could stand to use that a little less, in my opinion. But so the whole situation, after he wakes up, Tom wakes him up. He's like, where's Matt and stuff? So they go and look for Matt. And then they go into the house, and the whole family has been killed. The little daughter and everything, and the husband and the wife. Like, and it's terrible. And it looks like, because Matt's sitting there standing in the room, it looks like he's killed the family. And I'm like, holy crap. Did they change the way the darkness influences him from the dagger? Like, did it influence him to that point where he immediately gets to that point? Because we were warned that it would eventually build up and build up and build up to where he would start to do that. He would start to kill people around him and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if they just kind of fast forwarded that to make the stakes even higher. But then we kind of see him pointing the dagger up at the second level of the house, and then the fade is there. So I'm wondering if like the dagger gave him the ability to like track the fade or something, like to see where it is, kind of thing, or be like drawn to it, I guess. So like that's why he was in there, and the fade actually killed the family and not him, because when they leave, they see the little girl had been killed too, and Matt was like hyper distraught because she reminded him of his little sisters and stuff. So that tells me he didn't kill her, so he probably didn't kill the family. So maybe the dagger was just like pulling him towards the fade, so maybe he didn't. So maybe the dagger is not doing that. I don't know. Let me know what you all think about that in the comments down below. Do you think he actually killed the family, or do you think it was the fade and they just kind of did it like that for a misdirect and they caught me? Like, so yeah, let me know about that in the comments. But that whole part, I thought it was just amazing. Like it was so tense, and it was just freaking me out. Even the conversation before, after Matt was puking, he has the conversation with the little girl. That whole thing was so tense to me because like we know like he's getting influenced by this dagger, and he's like influenced by the shadow and stuff. So I'm like, like why does this feel so creepy? Why am I so tense during this scene? And it just got me so good. And I was just like, yes, this the whole tone and stuff is coming across really nicely. And then just like the whole image of the dead child and stuff is like, okay, maybe this is closer to Game of Thrones in its level of, visual kind of holy crapness and stuff like that, because that was a little intense for me. But that was like kind of the huge thing that happens with their story arc. And like after that, they leave Tom fighting the Fade. Like Tom's a badass fighter. He's throwing knives and stuff. He's a knife fighter and stuff. I mean, we know from the books that he is a badass fighter. So he's left alone. And this is the part where they have to leave him. And this is the part in the books where we just assume he's dead. So pretty much the same thing happens. It's like, okay, he's left to fight this freaking Fade thing, the Murdral thing or whatever. And yeah, he's dead. Like, so it's just kind of reached that point. And so they get on their horses and they run off. So we get to see next time we'll end up seeing them alone, like going on their separate quest, continuing their separate quest, but alone. So that was like the really, really intense one. Like that, well, not really intense. That was like this episode had two really, really crazily intense storylines, and then one kind of calm one. So we got Perrin and Egwene. They're with the Tinkers. They're learning more about the Way of the Leaf and stuff. Like they're talking to Aram's grandmother, and she's explaining to them like the nature, the whole thing that I thought was so interesting about them in the books. The whole nature of like they will run from, if someone comes and attacks them, they will run if they can and endure it if they can't. I thought that's like, it's such a, it feels like such an extreme thing that so many people like just in real life and stuff would be like, oh hell no, like, and all this kind of stuff, just kind of like go fooey on it and all this stuff. But like the way she explains it and just kind of in this like off the hand kind of nonchalant way, it comes across as just legit philosophy that I can really see people believing. Because the way she explains about her daughter, Aram's mom, like the way she explains her death and stuff, and the way she wants to keep seeding goodness and peace and stuff throughout the world, so that who knows however many turns of the wheel later, when her daughter's soul is spun back out into the world will be better for her that time around than it was when she was with her. So like that entire influence, like that hit me. I was like, that is some good stuff. That is like so well done, and I don't think it was explained as well as in the book. I could be completely wrong. That might even be like a total quote from the book. I could be totally wrong. I can't remember. But that like explained it and gave like such a great encapsulation of who the Tinkers are, like what the Way of the Leaf is and why they believe it and stuff. But they also kind of, when they explained the song, the nature of the song and stuff, because like the song is supposed to be like that influence. The song is supposed to like change people's hearts and make them all happy and stuff. So when Aram is explaining that to Egwene and stuff, you can just see he already doesn't believe it and stuff. But there's a thing that they did that they brought up that I really hope doesn't end up affecting later on, because spoilers for his plot line in the books. In the plot lines in the book, he leaves the Tinkers. He ends up taking up a sword and becoming a fighter because they get attacked and his grandmother dies, I believe. And so now they're talking about this thing like similar to the Amish tradition, where at a certain age they will leave the community and go and experience life the way other people do in order to see if they want to truly continue to live this life that they were born into versus versus going to do whatever else. So they kind of introduced this idea. So and he talks about some people take some arms and stuff and some don't come back. So I just really, really hope that that part of his arc is not tied into that. Like, because to me, that completely lessens it. That lessens this idea of the trauma of that attack and the frustration of them not defending themselves and stuff and just continuously getting attacked and stuff the way they do. Like, it builds up to the point where he's like, I just got to at least fight back. I can't just sit there and get eaten by these Trollocs and stuff. So to me, that feels a lot more like a better motivation than him just like, oh, I'm going to take my time off and go explore, like go abroad for a year or something like that, like. So I really hope they could be two separate things. It could be two separate bits of information. So I really hope that it doesn't tie it together in that way, because to me that would really lessen his arc. And I mean, granted, his art that pretty much is his entire arc, so it would really suck, especially considering they're using the character. And I thought it was really interesting that Aram and Egwene had such good chemistry. I was like, I'm more digging this than the whole Rand and Egwene thing because they keep bringing it back up and they keep talking about it, and it seems like one of these things where they want them to be together, like narratively for the show and stuff. But I'm like, we know that can't happen because you'd have to change too much about the long run. So like, we just can't do that. So I'm like, sure, like before she gets her guy or whatever later on, let her mess around with him or something like that. Like just introduce other ways to make them solidly apart. Because I think right now though, if they just broke it, it would be a little sloppy because of the way they showed them a little they tried to reconcile when it was in Shadow Logoth. So I don't know. Like it's weird to me. Like it's starting to feel like introducing them together as a couple right now was a bad idea because now you're kind of entangled in it and like it influences their relationship going forward. Period. So it's I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna have faith in the writers and assume that they thought about that and that they planned for it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to watch and enjoy. But let's go ahead and talk about the big plot that happens in the story, the one with all the action, all the cool, crazy stuff that happens. That is in the Nynaeve, Moraine, and Lan arc. So they're with the other Aes Sedai in their stronghold camp and stuff. And then Moraine kind of goes in, she's checking in with the other sisters and stuff. And we see that they have Logain. They are shielding Logain. They're taking turns, basically two at a time. They have to shield him two against one because he has so much power. He's so strong that it needs two of them to freaking actually shield him. So Moraine like helps out after she gets healed and stuff. Her Trolloc wound and stuff is totally healed now. So after she pretty much taps in and keeps helping, we learn a lot more about the dynamics between the Aes Sedai and stuff, and the interplay between the different Ajas, especially. So like there seems to be this thing where some of Moraine is friends with some of the Greens and stuff, and there seems to be this thing where they want the Greens to try to pump Moraine for information, and there's just like all this kind of interplay, interpoliticking between the different Ajas and stuff. We get like nice glimpses of that. And then we get these cool, because Nynaeve doesn't really like the Aes Sedai. Obviously, she doesn't trust Moraine and stuff, so she doesn't like the other sisters, and she can just tell that they're manipulative and stuff. So she just got her hackles up basically, and so she's more hanging out with Lan and hanging out with the Warders and stuff. So also book plot line spoiler. But we know that later Lan and Nynaeve end up together. So I love seeing this chemistry between them like immediately because in the first few episodes it completely slipped my mind. Like I don't know why I didn't look for them to have any kind of chemistry because I wasn't thinking about it at all. But considering we know what happens with them later, I do like this kind of like both of them have this take no shit kind of attitude, and they both will like headbutt each other like real like nicely kind of thing, but like almost in an endearing way. Like you can already see that happening now, and they're like sharing stuff about their faith and everything. Like Lan doing this cultural praying. We kind of learned a bit more about his backstory even with that little bit, that little tidbit. And then she like tells him about like basically the prayer that she was saying, which tied back into Manetheren and stuff. So like it's just it all like we're learning so much about the world, and we're learning about the characters, and we're learning about their dynamics, and we're seeing how they interact with each other all in this really, really cool and organic way. And I just think it's been done really well, even like with the changes and stuff. Because we end up going to this point where we have Logain and all the women are shielding him and stuff, and like apart from the another thing about the Warders relationships and stuff, they show that because like a lot of people would probably assume based on like the bath scene and stuff with Lan and Moraine that maybe their relationship is like more sexual, more relationship and stuff, but it's not. And the whole nature of the Warder Aes Sedai relationship is one that it is more intense than like regular companionship and stuff, but not everybody sees that relationship in the same way. So like Lan and Moraine, they're incredibly close to each other, but it's completely non-sexual. Whereas some other Aes Sedai is sexual. So like they have a scene around a campfire, and two of the Warders are like hugged up on each other, like they're dating or whatever. But then they basically make it clear that the Aes Sedai that both of them are bonded to, they're also dating. So they're a straight up throuple situation. And I was like, that's pretty click. That's pretty, I dig it. I was like, that's kind of hilarious in a way. I was like, because it shows these different dynamics in a lot of cool ways. Some of them like will show their relationship with their Aes Sedai. It comes off to me very, big brother, little sister, but the little sister has all the power, or like little big sister, you know, some at least similar to my situation. My sister is older than me, but is much smaller than me. She's shorter than me and stuff, so similar, but like little compacted power kind of thing, like big protector, little power person or something. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. So like that, it comes off as a brother sister relationship sometimes with some of them, and then like others they're a total throuple, and then Land and Moraine, like their relationship is like they're like the most like I don't even know, not buddy cop, but like best friends beyond best friends, like kind of thing, like most intense BFFs kind of thing. And like I just like they show all of that because a lot of that stuff is kind of hinted at in the books and stuff, but you don't really see a whole lot of it. We don't get a lot of POVs from other waters and other Aes Sedai, like how well we do, but like not to the degree that we can kind of see it in this group setting and all this stuff the way we do in this episode. So I really appreciate that we're able to like just expand on the world building, expand on the way all this stuff works, and even just the interplay between the different sisters. We kind of understand the dynamics and stuff. They're talking about like they can't gentle Logain without going through the trial and stuff, and like it's you know they have to listen to the word of the Amerlin seat, like that's showing clearly she's like the president of them basically and stuff. So I just really like how all these dynamics are coming out really organically and stuff, and we end up in a situation later where Logain's army, because we get some flashbacks too, which is really, really cool. Logain was going through everything, like wrecking all these people and stuff using the one power, and some of the effects on it was a little wonky. There was a scene showing he was using the one power and his madness was influencing him. So the weaves and the corruption in the weaves like form these smoke people around him and stuff, and some of it looked a little wonky. It's like it wasn't that impressive, but like we've seen some of the weaving look wonky from the beginning. Just the way they decided to depict it itself, I think, no matter what, is going to look a little wonky because it is a very base level kind of basic type of special effect, and the effect itself that they went with is one that is just it can't look real. If there it's pure uncanny valley, so there's no way to make it look real. So I had a thought earlier when I was watching it during the reactions and stuff, during the opening scenes, during the opening the intro of the show, like you know when we see the threads of the one power, like they show it like a loom and everything. We see the actual fabric and all the threads are different colors. I kind of wonder what if they did like that and made all the weaves look more like actual thread or like actual twine or something like that, and did it like I feel like that would be more labor intensive as far as VFX and stuff. But I wonder how much different it would look. I'd be really interested to see somebody kind of mock up something like that. But in any case, we basically end up in this big battle because Logain's army comes after him because in the flashback we see he takes down all these people and stuff, and he ends up taking over this kingdom. He gets to the king and stuff and basically convinces the king through a conversation that he is the dragon reborn and that he wants to do good things. So he ends up getting the whole king and the king's army and stuff to follow him. So by the time he's captured, he's got like all these allies. So we end up in the forest and we get that cool fight. Like we've seen little clips of it in the trailer and stuff. We get this huge fight in the woods and stuff, and all their warriors are coming attacking and everything. And we get to see multiple Aes Sedai how they fight and stuff. Some like use this. I couldn't tell what she was doing. I think it may have been air and fire or something. But she was making like these explosion plumes come up, and it was the rocketing people around. Some were just like throwing air and basically doing telekinetic or airbending type stuff. And like it was just cool, like seeing a lot of those different aspects and stuff, and seeing the way the waters are working differently because different waters have different weapon specialties and stuff. So it just kind of all came together really nicely. Some of the effects on it weren't the greatest, and some of the choreography could have been better. But it's a TV show, and I kind of give it a break on that. So it's really, I mean, they also don't have like Miguel Sapochnik from like Game of Thrones to like coordinate a lot of this stuff. So that's fine. I kind of give them a break on that. But it played out really nicely. And we kind of see the part from the trailer where like where Nynaeve was in there in the trees and stuff. So we get all of that. And we end up later on when Logain breaks out of his shielding, he ends up trying to escape, and we see the part where the cage melts and everything. And when he's trying to get out, he ends up, everyone comes in trying to stop him and stuff, and he ends up letting off this huge blast and shattering this guy. The water, he ends up killing one of the Aes Sedai, and her water goes after him while they're trying to shield him, and he gets his axes through the shield a little bit, which gives Logain something to kind of slip through the shield. So he influences the power and puts it into those axes and shatter them. So he gets pieces that fly everywhere. And it's a huge room full of people. Like Lan's throat gets cut. Like Moraine gets chopped real bad in the side and gets like the pole from the handle of the axe like stabbed through and stuff. Like all these people are dying and stuff. And Nynaeve is in there and she's like the only one that did get hurt because she was behind the wall. And she sees Lan like he was dying. Like all that blood's coming out of his throat. Like he was dead. And she was just freaking out and just said, no, no. Like went full explosion, went total Super Saiyan, just huge explosion use of the one power and just healed everybody in the room all at the same time. She went total Super Saiyan and her hair was all like flying up and stuff like that. I thought that was crazy. Like so she healed everyone and they basically got them the ability, as soon as they were healed, they all basically jumped up and linked together and they immediately gentled Logain. So now we are where he was in the books. He is gentle now, officially. So I thought that whole scene was just amazing. Everything, the way that climax happened, the way it built up to it, and just the way it all played out, I just thought it was so well done. I loved it so much, and I thought this was the best episode so far. This show is really cranking up, and I can't wait to see what else they do. I'm really looking forward to it. So let me know in the comments down below. What was your favorite part of the episode? What are you looking forward to most to see what comes next? How are you enjoying it so far? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments down below. And as always, if you're interested in my reactions, those are available on Patreon, and the link for that is down in the description below. So as always, though, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.